Forks froze midair. My grandfather's voice thundered through the microphone, shaking the crystal chandeliers above. "So, Lily," he said, smiling faintly from his seat at the head table. "How did you like the apartment I bought you in New York?" Time just stopped. I blinked, certain I'd misheard him. "What apartment?" "Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos? And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below." We read every comment. Let's begin. The mic picked it up. My voice, small, trembling, echoed through the grand ballroom. The crowd went quiet. Every guest at the Walker family's annual gala turned their heads toward me. Grandpa didn't look at me again. He just turned, slowly, and fixed his stare on my parents. The silence was so sharp I could hear the faint clinking of someone's bracelet across the room. My mother's smile faltered. My father's wine glass slipped in his grip. "Dad," my father started, forcing a nervous laugh, "I think you're confused." "There's no—" "Don't," Grandpa interrupted, his voice like steel. "Don't lie to me again, Richard." The air in the room grew heavy. My mom leaned in, whispering, "Dad, please, let's talk privately." He shook his head. "No. You've talked privately for too long." I stood frozen on stage, under that blinding spotlight, feeling my heartbeat in my ears. I could see people whispering at their tables. I could see my aunt clutching her pearls like she was watching a car crash in slow motion. Grandpa continued, voice unwavering. 6 months ago, I bought Lily an apartment in New York. Fully paid for. I wanted her to have a new beginning." He looked directly at my father. "So, tell me, Richard, why has she never stepped foot in it?" The whispers grew louder. My father's face turned a dangerous shade of red. "Dad, this isn't fair," he stammered. "We didn't tell her because—" "Because you forged her signature on the transfer papers," Grandpa snapped. "Because you rented it out under your name and pocketed the money." A collective gasp swept through the hall. I felt the ground sway beneath me. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Grandpa's lawyer, a quiet man in glasses, stepped forward and placed a folder on the table beside him. "We have the documents to prove it," he said calmly. Mom's eyes darted around the room, searching for an escape. "Dad, you don't understand. You needed greed." Grandpa cut her off, voice shaking now, not from weakness, but fury. "You took from your own daughter." My mother reached out to him, desperate. "Please, not here." He slammed his cane on the floor. The sound cracked through the air. "Here is exactly where the truth belongs." I felt hot tears sliding down my face. I didn't even care anymore who saw. For years, I'd been treated like the afterthought, the quiet one, the dreamer who didn't fit into their perfect mold. And now, in front of everyone, the mask they wore was shattering. Grandpa turned toward me. His voice softened. "You were supposed to start your life there, Lily. I wanted you to have something that was yours. They took that from you. But not anymore." He motioned to his lawyer. "As of tonight, everything changes." Dad rose from his chair, veins bulging in his neck. "You can't just rewrite the will." Grandpa met his glare, calm and cold. "I already did." You could feel the oxygen leave the room. He handed a sealed envelope to the lawyer beside him. "All company shares, assets, and properties bypass your parents. They go to you, Lily." I stared at him, my mind spinning. "Grandpa, He smiled faintly. "You'll understand later. Just don't make the mistakes they did." My father lunged toward the stage, shouting, "You'll regret this." But before he could take another step, security intervened. My mother stood in shock, whispering his name over and over, but he wouldn't look at her. As Grandpa slowly stood up, applause began to ripple through the crowd, hesitant at first, then stronger. Not the kind of applause for celebration, but for justice. He looked back at me, eyes soft again. "You're free now, sweetheart. Make it count." And with that, he left the stage, cane tapping against the marble floor. Everyone was staring. Cameras were out. The whispers were turning into headlines before the night was even over. But I couldn't move. Because in that moment, I realized this wasn't just about money. It was about betrayal. And the war that began that night was only the beginning. The next morning, sunlight poured through the blinds of my small apartment like nothing had happened. But my phone said otherwise: 47 missed calls, 18 voicemails, and hundreds of unread messages. Half the town had seen the video. Someone had recorded the whole thing. The confrontation, the gasps, the look on my father's face when Grandpa said the words, "It goes to you." Overnight, it went viral on social media. The Walker family meltdown was trending on local news hashtags. And in the middle of it all was me. I sat on my couch, still wearing the same heels from last night, my mind spinning. The betrayal, the applause, Grandpa's voice, it all echoed inside me like a song stuck on repeat. I scrolled through the comments. Finally, some justice. That girl's parents deserve to be investigated. Grandpa's a legend. But then came the hate. She probably planned this for inheritance. Rich kids always playing victims. I threw my phone aside and buried my face in my hands. I didn't want this, the noise, the spotlight, the rumors. I just wanted the truth to be seen. A sharp knock at the door pulled me back to reality. When I opened it, I froze. My father. Standing there. No suit, no fake smile, just a man whose pride had been gutted. "Can I come in?" he asked, voice low, unfamiliar. I hesitated, then stepped aside. "You're already here, Dad. Might as well." He walked in, glanced around my small place. "So, this is where you've been living?" He scoffed. "You could have had everything if you just stayed with us." I crossed my arms. "I did stay with you. You just never saw me." His eyes narrowed. "You think this is over because of one speech? You have no idea what kind of mess you've made." I laughed under my breath. "What I made? You stole from me." "I borrowed," he snapped. "And it was for your future. You don't understand how business works, Lily. You think Grandpa's little emotional stunt makes you some kind of hero?" "Stunt," I repeated, my voice breaking. "He gave me something that belonged to me. He gave me what you took." His face twisted, that same cold expression he used whenever I tried to stand up for myself growing up. "You've always been ungrateful." I clenched my fists. "Ungrateful? I worked part-time through college while you used my name to buy luxury cars. I begged for your attention while you paraded your perfect family image. The only thing I'm ungrateful for is your version of love." The room went still. He took a deep breath, then smirked faintly. "You're naive. Grandpa's old. He doesn't have much time left. When he's gone, we'll challenge everything in court. You'll lose." I stepped closer, voice trembling but strong. "Then I'll fight." He stared at me, really stared at me for the first time in years. Then he said something that chilled me to the bone. "You think you can stand against me? You're still my daughter." "Not anymore," I whispered. "Last night, you made sure of that." He left without another word, slamming the door so hard the frame shook. For a while, I just stood there, heart hammering, chest tight. But then something inside me shifted, a clarity I'd never felt before. If he wanted to fight, I was done being silent. I picked up my phone and called Grandpa. His voice came through, warm but tired. "Morning, sweetheart." "Grandpa," I whispered. "They came after me." "I know," he said softly. "Your father already called me. He's furious. But let him rage. Wolves show their teeth before they fall." "I don't know what to do." "Yes, you do," he said calmly. "You've always known. It's time you stop being afraid of your own strength." His words lingered long after the call ended. That afternoon, I went to the law firm downtown. The same one Grandpa's attorney worked at. He met me in the glass-walled conference room and slid a thick file across the table. "These are the documents your grandfather signed. They're airtight. Your parents have no legal claim." I exhaled slowly, relief washing over me. He continued, "But I'll warn you, your father's already moved funds out of the family company. He's preparing for a counterattack." My jaw tightened. Then so am I. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't hide. Instead, I sat down at my laptop and began researching the company I'd just inherited, the one my father thought he owned. Buried in the financial reports, I found it, millions in miscellaneous transfers, all to shell companies linked to my father's name. The man had been bleeding his own company dry for years, disguising it behind donations and investments. I leaned back, staring at the screen. My pulse raced, but my mind was clear. He wanted a war? Then I'd bring the truth. Grandpa's final words echoed again. "You're free now, sweetheart. Make it count." And for the first time, I understood what he meant. Because freedom wasn't about inheritance, it was about finally standing up for myself. The next morning, I printed every document, packed them into a folder, and walked into the boardroom uninvited. My father was already there, surrounded by his allies, smug and composed. He didn't even look up until I dropped the folder on the table. "What's this?" he asked. "Proof," I said simply, "of what you've been doing behind the company's back." His smile faltered. "Maybe next time," I added, meeting his glare. "You'll think twice before stealing from your own daughter." The room went dead silent. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel small. I felt powerful. And this was only the beginning. The boardroom felt colder than a courtroom. My father's eyes burned holes through me as I stood there, the folder of evidence spread open before his colleagues. Pages full of bank transfers, shell companies, and fake charity payments lay across the glass table like a crime scene. "You went digging into confidential records?" he hissed, keeping his voice low so the others wouldn't hear. I met his gaze, without flinching. "No, Dad." I went looking for the truth. One of the senior partners cleared his throat. "Richard, these documents, they don't look good." My father forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "It's a misunderstanding. My daughter's confused." "I'm not confused," I said sharply. "You've been stealing from the company for years, under Grandpa's nose, under everyone's nose. You forged my name. You used my trust. Now you're going to answer for it." A silence fell over the room, heavy and suffocating. My father finally snapped. "Get out." I didn't move. "Not until you admit what you did." He slammed his hand on the table, veins bulging in his neck. "You have no idea who you're dealing with, Lily. You think a few printed sheets make you powerful? You're still the little girl who needed me to hold her hand." I leaned closer, my voice calm but cutting. "No, Dad. I'm the woman you underestimated." He froze. For the first time, he didn't have a comeback. His allies avoided eye contact. The air felt charged, like lightning before a storm. I gathered the papers, sliding them back into the folder. "You wanted war. Now you've got one." And I walked out. That night, I went to see Grandpa. His house smelled like old books and cedarwood. He sat by the fireplace, wrapped in a knitted blanket, reading the newspaper. "You've been busy," he said, without looking up. "Too busy," I muttered, dropping into the chair across from him. He's furious. He's not going down quietly. "He never does," Grandpa said, folding his paper. "But the truth doesn't need to shout, Lily. It just needs to stand." I sighed. "He's not just angry. He's dangerous. He'll twist everything." Grandpa smiled faintly. "Then make sure you twist nothing. Let honesty be your weapon." I looked at him, confused. "You knew this would happen, didn't you?" He nodded slowly. "I've watched your parents hide behind wealth and reputation for decades. But I also knew one day, someone in this family would finally have the courage to pull off the mask. I was just waiting to see who it would be." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "You wanted it to be me." He reached out, his hand trembling as he rested it over mine. "Because you still have a heart. Don't lose that, no matter how dark it gets." I stayed there for hours, listening to the fire crackle, unsure whether I felt peace or panic. When I finally got home, it was past midnight. My phone buzzed again, an unknown number. I answered. A woman's voice came through, trembling. "Lily Walker?" "Yes, who is this?" "My name's Claire. I used to work as your father's assistant. I think you should know he's planning something." My chest tightened. "What kind of something?" She hesitated, whispering like someone afraid to be overheard. He's moving money offshore. And he's trying to convince the board that your grandfather's not mentally fit. He's going to challenge the transfer of assets. He wants everything back. I gripped the phone harder. When? Soon, she said. He's calling an emergency meeting tomorrow morning. I stood there in my dim apartment, heart racing, the city lights flickering through the window. My father was going to erase everything Grandpa had done, to paint him as senile and me as a manipulative granddaughter. But he'd forgotten one thing. I wasn't that quiet girl anymore. If he wanted a war, I was done playing defense. I stared out at the skyline and whispered to myself, tomorrow, the Real fight begins. The conference hall was packed, board members, shareholders, and even reporters who'd caught wind of the Walker family crisis. Cameras flashed as I walked in, wearing a black blazer and calm defiance. My father stood at the front beside his attorney, rehearsed smile fixed in place, my mother seated behind him, trembling but silent. Good morning, he began smoothly, voice echoing through the room. Before we begin, I'd like to address the unfortunate misunderstanding that occurred at last week's gala. A few murmurs rippled through the audience. He continued, my father, Harold Walker, has not been in sound mental health for several years. His recent decisions, including the abrupt transfer of assets, were made under emotional distress and outside proper legal counsel. The lawyer beside him nodded gravely. We have medical reports suggesting cognitive decline. We're simply here to ensure the company remains under responsible management. Every word stabbed like a knife. He was doing exactly what Claire warned me about, painting Grandpa as unfit, erasing everything he'd done for me. I waited until he was done, then stood slowly. May I speak? The lawyer frowned. Ms. Walker, this isn't the time. It's exactly the time, I said, stepping forward. Since you're talking about responsibility, let's start with the truth. I walked to the front and dropped a folder onto the table. The sound echoed like a gavel. These, I said clearly, are certified statements from the same doctors who examined my grandfather this month. He's sharp. He's healthy. And he's watching this meeting live. My father stiffened. What? I pointed to the large screen on the wall. The feed blinked to life. Grandpa's face appeared, calm and composed, sitting at his desk with the lawyer beside him. Morning, everyone, he said, voice steady. As you can see, I'm quite alive. And certainly not out of my mind. Gasps filled the room. Richard, Grandpa continued, tone sharp, I taught you to build, not to steal. But you chose greed. So I chose truth. My father's confidence cracked. Dad, this isn't. Quiet. Grandpa cut in. You lied. You forged signatures. You bled the company dry while pretending to protect it. You used my granddaughter's name like it was your property. Not anymore. The camera panned slightly, revealing a man in a suit beside him. Meet the federal auditor reviewing every transaction you made in the last 5 years. The color drained from my father's face. You can't. I already did, Grandpa said coldly. And Lily has copies of everything. Whispers turned into a storm. Board members exchanged glances. One of them, a tall woman in a navy skirt suit, stood up. Mr. Walker, with all due respect, the evidence speaks for itself. I moved to suspend your position pending investigation. The motion passed before he could speak again. He turned toward me, fury flashing behind his eyes. You think you've won? I met his glare. No. I just stopped losing. Security approached. He shouted something at my mother, but she didn't move. Her eyes were glassy, full of shame. As they escorted him out, Grandpa's voice came through the speakers one last time. Lily, it's yours now. Don't run from it. When the screen faded to black, the entire room fell silent. I exhaled slowly, shoulders trembling. The battle was over, not because I destroyed them, but because I refused to be silent. Later that evening, I drove to Grandpa's house. He was waiting on the porch, wrapped in a sweater, that familiar proud smile softening his face. You did it, he said. No, I whispered, hugging him tight. We did. He chuckled. Your parents might have stolen your start, but you took back your story. I smiled through tears. And this time, I'm keeping it. The sun dipped behind the hills, painting the sky gold. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I felt free. And that freedom, earned through truth,